This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. The Internet Archive machine has been hacked. A catastrophic attack that has taken 31 million passwords. And I'm sure because we keep hearing this over and over and over again, people are becoming desensitized to it until, of course, it actually happens to them and they have a pre-programmed boogeyman in their head of who's actually responsible for it. But of course, this would be your own government who's responsible for it. Hacking your own information and locking you out of your own accounts to bring about a digital ID. But when it comes to the Internet Archive, what in the world, who in the world would actually have enough motive to hack into the Internet Archive? Oh, right, your own government. Because if your own government can hack into the Internet Archive, they can technically rewrite history, right? Because if you don't know, the Internet Archive machine is literally like a library of historical information. That's what the Internet Archive machine is. You can go back and find documentation of things that were posted on the internet, whether it's from, your own government or your own government's controlled media, so you could actually go back and fact check them. I mean, who would have the motive to ever do this? Ever. I couldn't imagine. Well, they want you to think that some cyber attackers who are sitting in a warehouse somewhere in Russia actually want to go into a database like the Internet Archive machine to get your personal information, right? I mean, wouldn't their motive be going into maybe your bank accounts and trying to get money? Or wouldn't these hackers who are anti-government, wouldn't their motive be something with the actual government? Why is it that these hackers are always going after civilians? Well, it's because the hackers don't actually exist. It's your government hiding behind one of those hoodies, pretending to have an anonymous mask on, pretending all these, stereotypes they put in our head of what a hacker is supposed to look like, right? They always show us the picture of the guy with the hoodie in a dark room with his hands on multiple computer screens, right? Never a real motive behind anything he's ever doing, whoever this boogeyman is, except, of course, terrorizing civilians. Never, ever really doing any damage to the government themselves. But now the motive is, of course, for the boogeyman, the cyber attack groups, to go after the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive machine. And we've heard about this before, right? If you're not familiar, one of the things that they've done and continue to do is rewrite history. Now, we've all gone through this already, whether you know it yet or not. Most of the history, if not all of the history we've ever been taught in the public school system, in all the school systems, is a lie. What these wars were over, who actually the bad guys were versus the good guys, these have all been fabricated. They've rewritten history already. And now they're going to continue to rewrite history through editing the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive. Because how else would you rewrite history in the year 2024 when pretty much I'd say 100% of the information flow is coming through where? It's coming through the internet. People aren't getting their information anymore in the schools, which is why they're so hell-bent in silencing people like me and you. Because if they're actually starting to get real information, they might get pulled out of the matrix. And of course, rewriting history goes back to George Orwell's 1984 and this Orwellian world that we're living in, right? Quote, every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered, and the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. And if you haven't noticed, the globalist party, the communist globalist party, is already in place. Because if you haven't noticed, every single politician out there always says that everything that they say is right. And when you actually present them with facts and question them, all they do is just tell you that they're right and you're wrong, that you've been debunked because they said that they're right and you're wrong, right? Just like we've recently seen with weather modification, with politicians on both sides, the left and the right, because they're all compromised, coming out and telling us that we've been debunked. How do we know? How do they know we've been debunked? Because, quote, you can't control the weather. End of story, exclamation point. No argument allowed to be made, no presentation on our behalf allowed to be looked at when it comes to government patents and government documentation to owning the weather by 2025, right? So it's a lot like what's happening now, where the party is always right. And if you're not aware yet, you will be soon, that the Republicans and the Democrats are working together. Because when you have two political parties and you control both sides, well, that means you have a unison party. You have one party. And that's what they're doing, dividing the civilians, making them think the illusion of freedom still exists. But the party is always right, right? So now that they've decided to openly admit that they've hacked the Wayback Machine, what does this mean? Well, what this means is they're now openly blurring the lines, because anything you find in the Wayback Machine now, anything you go in there and look at, they'll say it was altered during a cyber attack. So if you find documentation that shows that the government's lying, or the government did this, or the government is just quietly changing the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, or anything along the lines of government manipulation, anything that you could blame the government for, and you could find documentation on it or of it, they could go back and change. In fact, they're probably already working in the Wayback Machine into changing all the stuff that the government was telling you had to do when they wanted you to poison yourself, right? So here's the story that's being presented in regards to this major internet hacking, and of course 31 million people having a data breach. It's almost like every other day you hear a story about a data breach. And like I've always talked about, the more you hear it, the more desensitized you become to it. Then when it happens to you, you're almost expecting it. You're almost expecting to wake up and see your bank account at zero, are you not? I mean, how many people are actually checking their bank accounts now every day to make sure it's not at zero? Because how many stories have we heard about Bank of America and all these other banks that are having oopsies, little glitches where people go into their bank account and for 24 hours they can't access their money, they can't access their balance, right? Because they're conditioning you into eventually this actually happening. And the more you see it, the more desensitized you become to it, the more you accept it, the more you just go, oh, I knew it was coming. I saw it was coming. Well, of course you knew it was coming because they told you it was coming, right? So day in and day out, we hear about these cyber attacks. We never catch anybody. Have you ever heard a story about any of these people ever getting caught? How about all these other cyber attacks, AT&T, all these data breaches, right? Well, of course you're not going to hear of anybody ever getting caught because all they're doing is programming you. There's nothing really going on about data breaches because everything on the internet belongs to the government. All of our information the government already has, right? But this is to condition you into a digital ID eventually, because the digital ID is the total control system. Your digital ID will monitor and track every single thing that you do, every carbon emission that you have, and specifically every word you post on the internet. You won't have sock accounts anymore. You won't have sock emails anymore. Everybody will just have one, and every single thing you will be held accountable for, including thoughts that might not align with your communist global government. So hackers have claimed a catastrophic internet archive attack. A group linked to a pro-Palestinian hacktivist movement has launched a catastrophic cyber attack revealing the details of 31 million people, compromising their emails and screen names. Now, can somebody first tell me why would a pro-Palestinian movement, why would this be what they're interested in with everything that supposedly is happening in the world? That they were sitting around there saying, hey, let's go hard here. Let's go balls to the wall. Let's hack civilians. Huh? Let's hack the internet archive. Huh? Well, because it doesn't make any sense. But haven't you noticed that the majority of these news stories don't make sense? There's never the one most important ingredient we're always told about when it comes to crimes. A motive, right? There's no motive for any of these groups. There's certainly no motive ever for any of these cyber attack groups. But there's a huge motive for the globalists, isn't there? There's a huge motive. Remember all those times I've shown you that the World Economic Forum has openly talked about how there was going to be a catastrophic cyber attack? They've said it over and over and over again. In fact, they said it was going to happen right in this window, that there would be a major cyber attack, which would be worse than anything we've ever seen. Because again, they shut the grid off. They've already got a boogeyman in place, right? Russian cyber attackers, Chinese cyber attackers, trying to shut the grid down so people can't go and quote unquote vote in their fake election. I mean, we have narratives out the wazoo for boogeymen that they've put in place. We have climate change, we have cyber attacks from Russia, pro-Palestinian groups throwing their name in the mix, Taliban, you name it. We've got boogeymen everywhere. You know, all things that you can't get close to. All things that you can't defend yourself against, because if you realize that the people doing this are actually showing up in Congress every single day, well, then the civilians could actually remove these people from office for what they're doing to their own civilians. They're supposed to be working for us, remember. But this is just a bunch of the clips of the World Economic Forum somehow seeing the future of major cyber attacks occurring. Isn't that convenient?
Global Security Outlook Report 2023. This is a result of research in collaboration with the forum's communities and our partner Accenture, in which we've interviewed and sought input from over 300 executives globally. The most striking finding that we found is that 93% of cyber leaders and 86% of cyber business leaders believe that the geopolitical instability makes a catastrophic cyber event likely in the next 2 years.
But still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services. Our society as a whole would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
So, of course, they can see that a major cyber attack is imminent because they're planning a major cyber attack. Kind of like they told you there was going to be this major outbreak, and then there was a major outbreak. And we all warned everyone beforehand that there would be a major outbreak, but it wouldn't be a real outbreak. The whole point would be to get something inside your body, right? So conveniently, they warned us of that, and it happened, and then they went on TV and said, we warned you, we told you, nobody listened to us. No, we all listened. We listened when you told us there would be one, because what we heard when you told us there would be one was you telling us that you are planning one on us. And that's what everybody should be hearing and thinking when they see these stories about cyber attacks. And they think in their mind, I mean, every person who hears this story, when you hear, oh, this mysterious cyber attack group, you think of the same thing. They've created an image in your mind of somebody in a hoodie in front of a computer screen wearing a mask, maybe an anonymous mask or something along those lines. They've done it over and over and over again. And the reason they've done it is they've created this in your mind now. That's how psychological ops work, right? They've already created something that doesn't exist in your mind. Kind of like what they've done with aliens, right? They've told you over and over and over again what an alien looks like, yet we've never seen an actual alien. Now we know that demons exist. We know the connection between Aleister Crowley and Lom and interdimensional beings or demons, right? We understand that connection, but they've constantly told you what an alien looks like. Nobody's ever said, all these alien movies, how come they know what it looks like? How do we know it doesn't look like, a big giant turd emoji? How do we know it looks just like a gray thing? Well, you can't ask that question because then you'd realize you're being programmed. Right? Well, same thing with the cyber attacks. They just continually build in your mind what it's supposed to be, who it's supposed to be, where they're supposed to be doing it, right? Some dark factory, some basement somewhere in the middle of, Scandinavia or some, Timbuktu. Oh my goodness. And it's always some it's always some anti-government group, right? Anti-government group, but they're going after the civilians. They're never going after the government, are they? Right. So obviously this is your government. So the breach was said to be just like every other one. Encrypted passwords were exposed. Users have been advised to change their passwords. People's personal information is out there. The breach was accompanied by a series of disrupted denial of service attacks that temporarily took down the organization's website, archive.org, on Wednesday, and is continuing to affect the website currently. Wayback Machine is also inaccessible right now, as of at least me recording this. In a post on X, people said, well, we know DDoS attack fended off for now. Defacement of our website via JS library, breach of usernames, email, salted encrypted passwords. What we've done, disabled the JS library, scrubbing systems, upgrading security. We'll share more as we know it, right? So what's interesting to note is scrubbing systems. You mean scrubbing maybe actual information that the government doesn't want out there for civilians to actually access, especially at a time period where more and more people are waking up. Okay, for as many completely brain dead people as we do have a large amount of people that are waking up. And just what we saw with Helene, just what we saw with Milton, how many people all of a sudden are talking about weaponized weather? How long have we all been screaming? How long have you heard me screaming about weaponized weather, geoengineering? All of us have, right? We've all been screaming about it, and people just kind of have rolled their eyes and ignored it. Well, now all of a sudden, people are paying attention. So it's very interesting that after all of that they're going into the Wayback Machine to start scrubbing stuff. I wonder if they'll start scrubbing documents like owning the weather by 2025, or, all those patents that I show you throughout my videos where I show you all the patents that they have to control the weather. I wonder if those will be things that are, well, of course they will be. Lots of things will be, because the more people get suspicious of the government, the more people are going to investigate things, try to look into things on their own. And they didn't really, I don't think, expect people to become this aware of what they're doing, especially now that people finally are correlating why they've been screaming climate change and now realizing there's weaponized weather so that they can get away with doing what they're doing with the weather to civilians. People out there are getting wise to it. I don't think they expected it. I don't think they gave enough credit to people like us and the fight that we have and the knowledge that God has given us to see the enemy, to see the wicked and what their plans are for people out there. So, back to the story. On October 9th, visitors to the Internet Archive's website were met with a pop-up message indicating that the site had been hacked. The message read, "Have you ever felt like the Internet Archive runs on sticks and is constantly on the verge of suffering a catastrophic security breach? It just happened. See 31 million of you on HIBP." The reference to HIBP points to "Have I Been PWNED, pawns," a widely used service that allows individuals to check in their personal data and has been compromised in known data breaches. So again, your personal information. Remember all this stuff you've heard over the last 20 years about identity theft, right? You've heard about it's getting beaten into your head. Now people are seeing more and more. They're saying, oh my goodness, somebody's going to pretend to be me online. Somebody's going to hack into my bank account. This is all for the digital ID. So the government creates these boogeymen. They create these fake cyber attacks. Something like this, the government's doing on their own, going in and manipulating history, but they're preparing you for a digital ID. The more you hear these stories, the more you're going to be okay with a digital ID. They're going to create a massive cyber attack story one of these months where they tell you flat out that, a whole state or an entire bank, for example, has been hacked and everybody has lost all of their money in their bank account, right? And of course, everyone will crack jokes because my debt gone too. Well, your debt will never be gone. I'm sure that'll remain, but your balance will be at zero. And people will start saying, okay, I can't have this anymore. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we should just get out of the banks. Maybe we should, that would be real smart to do. Get out of the banks. Or how about we just say, maybe we shouldn't do banking online anymore. Maybe we should go back to cash. Well, they want to make sure you don't think that way. So what they'll do is they'll come in with the solution they want you to take, which is a digital ID, where they'll tell you it's unhackable, that only you could do it because your biometrics will be needed. And a hacker can't hack your biometrics, but guess who can? Oh, right, the government, who is the hacker anyway. So yes, they can. They can actually hack your DNA, which is what the plan really is. So this is what occurred. They mentioned, again, 31 million people down. But the real thing to note is this, just thinking to yourself and taking a step back and saying, who would hack an Internet Archive database, right? If the government was what you're looking at and you're saying, they're doing this, they're doing that, and you're some type of group, pro-Palestinian is what they're claiming, right? This is what the motive is, the Internet Archive machine, right? And again, throughout history, they've rewritten history. So having control over everything that's on the internet is very important. Now, they already do, in a sense, have control over it. But I mean, there's still some freedoms on the internet. I mean, you can still post stuff on the internet. There's going to be a lot of laws that are passed that eventually, when there is a digital ID, that we won't be able to have our own websites to share information because there'll be hate crimes put in play. All these things that they have planned are coming. But there is still a way to look back, see what, especially with the media. I mean, you could go back and look at some of the stuff that they've told you about the flu shots in the past. Even CNN, I have articles, say, from 2015, where even CNN's like, no, there's really not that much importance of getting the flu shot because it doesn't really work, right? You can go back and through all stuff that the media has pushed out there, and you can see contradictions in what they say. So those are things they probably want removed. And of course, again, if the government is going to alter certain amendments and things like that, well, they would want and have to have, access to the Wayback Machine so that you can't actually access any of these things anymore. You'd have to have stuff downloaded and saved, and then people would question the validity of it because they were always looking at the Internet Archive as like a library. as a place where they could go and say, look, this is all stuff that's been documented into this, into the internet, okay, from government documents to amendments, all these things that the government has even put up there, the media's put up there. It's all here. It's like a huge library of information, right? So now they could say, well, we can't use the Wayback Machine as something that's credible because it's been hacked. So any document you find that you might say is from 2010 or 2000 or documents about the government saying they're going to own the weather, well, they'll just come out and they'll tell you flat out, oh, well, when that hacking occurred, hackers put this fake stuff in there. And then the sheeple will repeat it. That's how it'll work, right? The sheeple will hear that. So when you bring up owning the weather in 2025 and showing them that the Air Force made this, they'll say it's a fake document. You'll say, well, wait, I have proof that it's a real document. This is CIA. Well, they'll say that was compromised. Even the Wayback Machine was compromised. It's all compromised. It's make-believe now, right? That's all they need to do is blur the lines with these people. It's really as easy as that. So another hack, there's a few things you can count on every month. Massive data breach hack is one of them. A major weather catastrophe is one of them, whether it's wildfires or hurricanes, right? Major floodings, earthquakes, those types. Every month, you'll get one of that. You'll get one of that. What else will you get? You get your race baiting that they throw out there every single month. It's just repetitive. Why? Because that's the key to mind control, repetition. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.